Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Hilaal Live. We now discuss the two-part pension retirement system, which is a reform that will allow retirement fund members to make partial withdrawals from the retirement funds before they retire. This also while preserving a portion that can only be accessed at retirement to help improve retirement outcome. This means members need to not resign to access part of their retirement benefit if they are in financial distress. This reform will come into effect on the 1st of September 2024. To tell us more from COSATU, Matthew Parks. Good evening, Matthew. Welcome. Hi, Matthew. Can you hear us?
Thanks for having us.
My pleasure.
Yes. Hi. Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Tell us a bit more. How does this all work? I mean, for some, this could be quite complicated. And for others, I suppose, maybe a reprieve in many respects. Tell us more.
So basically, it's a comprehensive set of reforms to try to address quite a few challenges with regards to our current pension laws. We have first proposed this as COSATU during COVID-19, when many workers were not getting paid, were struggling to access the unemployment insurance fund, yet they have money in the pension funds. COVID-19 is come and gone, but we still have the issue of workers being highly indebted and often just being confronted by family emergencies and not knowing how to manage it as a result. So the current pension laws create some problems. Workers don't really have much choices in those laws. Workers can access their pension funds, their savings, when they retire naturally, or if they're retrenched or dismissed. They can also access them through retrenchments. And as a consequence of that, many workers, when they're confronted by a financial emergency, whether it's a family or medical, whether it's the issue of the car breaking down, just being overwhelmed by debt, what the workers then often choose to do is to resign from their job so they can cash out the entire pension fund. So this creates momentary for workers that now settled whatever bill they needed to settle, but it creates new problems. One is the worker is no longer working, they're unemployed for the next day. They'll no longer receive a salary, but they'll also have depleted the pension fund. They'll no longer be contributing towards it. And the consequence is that when workers, over the career path might have about 6 or 7 jobs, when they reach retirement age, only 6% of South Africans can afford to retire. So there is a crisis. So in essence, the two-part reform is giving workers choices. One is that when the law comes into effect on 1 September this year, workers can access 10% up to a cap of 30,000 Rand from the existing savings as a once-off relief, basically the equivalent to a 13 check. So it won't settle your home loan, but it can pay off credit card and other pressing bills. Then going forward, your savings going forward would be divided into 2 pots. 2/3 would be preserved for when you retire or if you lose a job through a retrenchment. And then 1/3 would go to a savings pot. And that savings pot you could access once a year. You would choose what the need is. You are the best placed person to decide what your personal needs are. So I think for us, it's win-win because one is the workers won't need to resign to get relief anymore. We can end that. Secondly, there will be immediate relief on 1 September up to 30,000 Rand, so some cushioning. And then going forward, you'll get basically about a 13 check once a year, a third of your future savings. And in the longer term, more will be preserved for retirement because we'll be saving 2/3, which currently is not being saved for when workers retire. So this is a positive, significant, some of the most significant change in many years, but I think for us it's win-win. It's going to help workers get relief, remain employed. It's going to help businesses not be disrupted. It's also going to help boost savings in the longer term, which is good for the economy as well.
Yeah. Now, this has been in discussions, since 2020, and it's finally on our doorstep. Has there been concern from various financial institutions that traditionally work with pension funds?
No, they've been very happy. We've been engaging with them. We first tabled this proposal as COSATU to Treasury in 2020. We've had extensive engagement with Treasury since then. We've had extensive engagement with Parliament, with the finance committees. And we've also had very extensive engagement with the pension fund industry as well, with the CSIP, which is the association. Many pension funds that come out on board in support of it, like Old Mutual, like Sanlam, which is comforting because you're always afraid, are we tinkering too much of the system? Might we cause a collapse, etc.? These are very serious matters. The economy is built upon pension funds. And I think what's fantastic is that we have, yes, this is a COSATU proposal, but Treasury is on board, Parliament is on board, the pension funds are on board. So that's really a very unique consensus. And I think all of us have agreed how to manage it. So in fact, we have a working group now, and look, this thing went through Parliament with consensus in government, business, and Labour.
Mm-hmm.
It also enjoyed unanimous support from the political parties at Parliament. Of course, the ANC helped to drive it as a majority party, but all other parties also came up in support of it. And we actually have a working group now at NEDLAC, consisting of us as COSATU, with Treasury, with the Financial Sector Conduct Authority, with the South African Revenue Service, but also with the pension fund industry as well. Because we all have the same objective now. We have a law, it's being passed by Parliament shortly. The first bill has been passed. We're all working to make sure we have a smooth implementation. So I think that's a fantastic thing, because ultimately our problems are so massive as a country. It requires all of us to contribute to resolving them.
Of course. I think the grave concern about especially the savings aspect, and when you want to withdraw from any savings aspect, is the tax that one will be charged. Do you find that's a grave concern for lots, and how does that work?
No, look, I don't think you find anybody who enjoys paying tax.
Mm-hmm.
The wealthy don't enjoy it. Definitely the poor don't like it. I think even employees of the tax authorities don't like paying tax either. But look, ultimately, tax is there. It's one of the two guarantees of life. They say tax and death are the two things you can bet on in life. But under the current law, workers receive a tax incentive when they contribute to the pension fund, so that remains. Under the same current law, when workers or anybody withdraws from a pension fund, you pay a tax penalty. Currently, it's a flat rate of 18%, which isn't really fair because it treats low-income earners the same as you would treat high-income earners. That's going to change. It's now going to be made to be more progressive, to be biased towards low-income earners. So it'll now be linked to your personal income tax rate. So if currently you don't pay income tax, that's what it's going to be linked to.
Okay.
If you pay 10% tax, it'll be linked to that, not 18%. If you pay above 18%, you maybe pay 30% tax, it'll be linked to that. So it's a more progressive, it's a more fair approach, because we shouldn't be taxing somebody who earns 100,000 Rand a year the same as you tax somebody who earns 10 million Rand a year.
Yeah.
So it's going to be linked to your income tax level, and I think that's a more fair approach to it.
Yeah. With an ever-changing economy, with things like load shedding, some of the businesses unfortunately can't sustain the workforce, and we all too often find that people are retrenched. Will they access their savings during this retrenchment period?
Yeah, so they will. What you saved up until 1st of September will remain in what is called a vested rights pot.
Mm-hmm.
Workers will have access to that under the same conditions of retirement, resignation, dismissal, or retrenchment. They'll have access to that. For savings going forward, workers will have access immediately to the 1/3 that's in the savings pot whenever they choose to once a year. And then we've also had an agreement with Treasury for an additional supplementary bill that comes shortly to Parliament, that if a worker loses their job, they will also have access, as is currently, to the preservation pot. Because ultimately, if a worker loses their job, they no longer have an income.
Mm-hmm.
You can't tell them to save for tomorrow. You can't tell them to save for a pension retirement date in 20 years' time. You need to give them whatever money they have to ensure that they can save their home, their car, buy food, electricity, make sure the kids go to school, etc.
Yeah.
So there is an agreement on that, and you would have access through those three mechanisms to whatever money you have saved up.
Yeah. What should the average man in the street now be concerned about, or maybe be happy about that this is all coming to effect?
No, we think they should be happy. The support and engagement we've had with our members as COSATU has been very, very, very much excited. They're looking forward to it. The biggest frustration workers have had is that it's taken so long to achieve it. And we appreciate that, because people are under real pressure. But nonetheless, we are now in May. We have 4 months till September. It will come into effect. There are two bills. The first bill has been passed by Parliament. The second bill has been passed by the National Council of Provinces. It's going to the National Assembly next week to be adopted. So we're nearly there. We're 95% down the road. There is still a bit of work to be done, from the President signing it, to Treasury promulgating, to SARS adjusting tax systems, to pension funds adjusting their rules and adjusting the administrative systems. But we'll get there. We're well on track. We're making very good progress, significantly and fast. So I think for us, this is a positive thing. It's going to give relief to workers. I think it's important to remember there's not going to be enough to settle your home loan or your car loan. It's going to be the equivalent of a 13 check immediately and once a year. That you can use to pay off credit cards, short-term loans, pay for car repairs, medical emergencies, etc. but it's a fair compromise. Workers can remain employed. They can get immediate relief from September. They can get relief once a year going forward. And also when workers retire, they have much more saved up as well. So I think for us, it's a fair compromise. It's not the end of the road. There are a few other issues we still want to engage the Treasury on. But I think for us, right now, let's get this done, and then we'll finalize other issues immediately afterwards.
Great. Matthew, thanks for joining us on Hilaal Live. All the very best with the next couple of months. I'm sure there's going to be tons and tons of meetings and, stakeholders being more actively involved in going forward as well. Have a great evening.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks. Matthew Parks from COSATU chatting to us about the two-pot pension system. That's all that we have for you on Hilaal Live. We'll be back tomorrow between 5 and 7, inshallah. Tomorrow, do join us. Remember to log in via our website, www.hilaal.tv. I'd like to say a big shukran on technical to Sohail Barnes. And from myself, Luqman Shadrack, have a great evening. Assalamu alaikum.